Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of this Development One Topic at a Time, where we put the word to rights by raising awareness on a range of topical elements or development topics. This is your host, 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, founder of 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Consulting and author of Lessons from Depression. Yay! I've finally published the book. But we'll talk about that on another occasion. Today, my lovely guest and I will focus on the topic of maternal inequalities. So maternal health inequalities will be the focus of the chat today. And guess what? So do you think I'm going to give it away now? So guess who's my guest? I'm pleased to and really honored to welcome Nila Varman. Hi, Nila.
Hi, 𝗂𝗏. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to join me on this platform today, Nila. It's so good to have you here. I really look forward to hearing your interesting perspectives on maternal health inequalities. Yeah. Well, for the audience, Nina has a passion for the world of communication and she wears so many hats. She's an entertainment reporter, a presenter, content creator, an actor, and a filmmaker. Oh my God. She has her own podcast, hosted radio shows, and collaborated with a range of organizations, including the BBC. Nila also happens to be an amazing human being, and I know this from experience because I've had the privilege to collaborate with her at King's College London. I know, you've been amazing.
What an introduction. But I mean, for people who are listening to this, it's like 10 in the morning on a Sunday, and I'm like, that's so sweet.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you, 𝗂𝗏. I mean, yeah, it was such an honor to collaborate with you, and we were collaborating with some wonderful researchers, and it was such a good team. I had so much fun getting to know everyone, and yeah, it's just a pleasure to be here and to be chatting to you, equally as amazing human being.
Oh, thank you. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. Oh, enough of me talking. I think I'll let you introduce yourself. And again, I reiterate a warm, very warm welcome to you, because I really appreciate your time and presence here. It's such a precious gift. Thank you so much. So
Oh,
over to you, please, Nila.
thank you. I mean, yeah, I don't know what 𝗂𝗏 hasn't left out, but my name is Nila. I'm 23 years old. I was a student last year when I was collaborating with 𝗂𝗏 on my thesis at the end of the year. But now I work in film and content, and I create content about social issues that aren't really spoken about. But I also focus my work on misrepresentation in film and entertainment reporting. So watch movies, kind of interview people about it. And yeah, it's just quite a range. I realized that when people ask me what I actually do, I don't have an answer. It's kind of like I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this, I'm a that. I mean, I wish there was a job title for what exactly I'm trying to achieve. But I work in film is the broad aspect of it, and I love talking about things that are, considered as a taboo, or things that people are afraid to speak about in, public places, or in conversations with their families. So that's a bit about me. Other than that, I don't know. I like eating, and I like dinosaurs.
Wow. It's interesting you said you don't know how to answer when people ask you what you do. Such a brilliant answer you just gave. I think it just shows that your passion shines through everything that you do.
I'm gonna call
It's
that a
love.
fluke, 𝗂𝗏. I'm calling it a fluke. Okay, I'm gonna record whatever I just said and say it to everyone.
Wouldn't that work? Just play. Press play. Wow, thank you so much, Nila. And as you said, you studied a master's degree in women and children's health
Mhm.
at KCL. What motivated you to do so, please?
Well, I actually, so I did psychology for my undergraduate, and I always had an interest in media, but I wanted to kind of merge the two. So if it was either having a platform where I talk about topics pertaining to psychology or women and children's health, or whatever it was, I just knew that it was part of my repertoire or whatever.
Mhm.
But for me, it really like properly started after, or maybe actually during my undergrad. I had always wanted to visit Tanzania, and I did. And it was around the time when I started my platform, the Nila Extract, where I was talking about these social issues. And one of the topics that I'd often make videos about was period poverty and reproductive
Mhm.
rights disparities and things like that. So when I went to Tanzania, I went for quite a long time. Well, not too long, but I went with my family for a few weeks, and we had the opportunity to talk to some Maasai communities. And I speak really bad Swahili, but I speak Swahili, like I can understand it. Um, and I kind of taught myself because I don't know why, but I think I was just really excited. Um, but I went there, and because I spoke Swahili, like a lot of the members in the community were more open to share things with me, and they began telling me about, the period like health disparities that they were facing in the area,
Mhm.
and like how the lack of access to period products had affected their schooling, because they were asking me what I did, and I was just like, well, I talk about important, like I was telling them I talk about these things, and I was telling them how one of my friends, she's a content creator. She's actually a Russian woman who went to Tanzania on holiday one day, and now she lives with the Maasai. And what she does is she creates sustainable period pads and period products and distributes it to women and, people who have periods in the Maasai community. And I think that's so amazing. So that they can go to school and they don't have to use like cloths and unsanitary items. So I was talking to them about this, and it just sparked my interest about like how I wanted to talk about where these deep like these issues stem from, and is this applicable just here, or do we have our own form of like disparities in healthcare back at home? And so when I came back, I started like making more content about this, and I actually so I became friends with this the woman who's her name's Stephanie. She's really cool. She makes these period products, and yeah, we're still in touch, and she's a nice person. Um but it kind of prompted me to look for something that was aligning,
Uh-huh.
where I could have a look at, not only, like the physical health and internal health of people with uteruses and women, but also I
Yeah.
wanted to have a look at it on a global health perspective. So if I ever wanted to explore it further, I could. And I felt like when I just saw like the description for this course, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it kind of describes like what I want to do. Um, so it kind of like came out of the blue for me. Like I'd be lying if I said that I've always had this interest. I mean, I've always had this interest about women and
Uh-huh.
about issues that we face and the healthcare issues that we face. But really for the course, like it was that trip. And I learned so much from the women I was staying with and the women that I was becoming friends with, and like about their experiences. And I just realized that I really enjoy listening to their experiences, and I wanted to research it further. So I think that's what prompted me. Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a long answer.
No, I mean,
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before.
wow, what a practical motivation. And and again, I'm so glad I have you here today because I'm finding out more about you and Leila.
No, but also the course was in London, and I always wanted to move here.
It's amazing how much rapport, building a warm rapport with other human beings, and especially local communities can give you as a person, can help you enhance your own personal development, right?
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, I agree. I agree. Like, I think, I don't know, like, I didn't learn that much of the language, but even knowing some of it, it just makes it personable and more respectful. Like, I think, like, if you ask me about language hierarchies in South Asia, I could talk about it all day, but like, some people expect, people to visit South Asia and then to be able to speak their own language, but not the local language. It's like a big issue, so I would never like want anyone to feel uncomfortable. So yeah, it
yeah,
was.
I guess we have one more thing in common, Nila.
Oh,
So,
what is that? What is
yeah,
that?
Let's find out more about ourselves. So in 2009, I was in Kisumu, Kenya, as a diaspora development associate. And I picked up a few Swahili words, and I love Swahili. I
Oh my
love eating
God.
ugali.
Oh, that's so fun.
You
Oh my
know,
God.
mambo vipi, habari
Oh,
yako.
yes, I know Mambo Weepy. Yeah. I used to just go around and be like, oh yeah, Gina langu ni Nila.
Oh, there you
Like,
go.
Gina laku ni nani. They used to be like, oh my God, what? I'd be like, oh my God.
And they're so kind people. So
Yeah,
down
everyone
to
was
earth.
so lovely. They'd like every night, like I'd get walked back to my tent because I was staying in this the Serengeti for some time,
Oh,
and you're not allowed
wow.
to come outside in the night because you might die.
Yeah,
So
literally.
yeah,
Lion.
literally you might get eaten. Like I could tell you about that all day, but I used to get walked, like escorted back and forth by these two women and sometimes these two men. And every day they'd teach me some new words. And they'd
Oh.
give me like spelling tests and like they'd be like, what's chicken? And I'd be like, cuckoo. And they'd be like, yeah,
There you
right.
go.
And they'd come and give me extra food during dinner. I'd be like,
Oh,
why
so lovely people.
no, I
Such
really miss my
lovely
time.
memories.
Yeah,
Serengeti.
they taught me songs. It was so nice.
Oh, that looks like an unforgettable experience. Beautiful, right?
100%. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. We have that in common.
Yeah, and even more, I as part of that, we collaborated with an organization called 𝗘𝗁, if I remember correctly, and they actually worked on that. What your friend is doing in terms of ensuring that people with period poverty were also that the issues, the challenges were addressed. So it's
Yeah.
amazing how. So let's keep talking. Let's keep talking, Nila.
Let's get chatting. Let's get going.
Yeah, it's amazing. So what role do you think, well, before we get that, we get to that, sorry, we hear a lot about maternal health inequalities, as you know, because we worked in the field. And in your opinion, what are the causes, especially those regarding minoritized ethnic groups, which is our focus today?
Well, I was thinking about this, and it's weird because I feel like every time I think about it, there's like more things that I consider to be a cause in a way. Like,
Uh,
it's so rooted and interconnected in everything. Obviously I could say like structural racism and the correlation to that for poor health outcomes and um there's also like discrimination and bias. And then I mean, something that we were just talking about is language and how important it is to have that connection with someone. And I think just through reading, I've understood that like
yeah,
cultural competence is a big thing. And like sometimes having a lack of language and like language barriers can lead to patients not even wanting to come in and seek care. So I think it's really weird. It's a bit of a mix. There's access to care that can affect it and various socioeconomic factors that underlie it, like,
yeah,
employment status and education and socioeconomic status. And I think they really, really do contribute to the healthcare inequalities, especially in the UK. Um, so yeah, and I feel like I'm just learning about more and more as time goes on because, we have an evolving healthcare system at the same time as an unevolving healthcare system, in my opinion. And
yeah.
so, um, yeah, I think those are like kind of the key topics that I'd say I'd mention. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such an insightful answer there. And you talked about structural racism, discrimination, and bias, which and I agree with everything that you just said. And I wonder if you could delve a little bit more on the role that race plays in this context, please, Nila.
Yeah, sure thing. Um, hmm. I mean, I think unfortunately, like obviously we see structural and institutionalized racism in the UK, but there's also like a massive sense of like anticipation of stigmatization. And I think it's a concept that I didn't really consider before. But because a lot of patients here in the UK face you know, a lack of communication with the patients or judgments at face value, or, you know, I've read studies. I think there was a study, I'm trying to remember the name. I think it was by someone called 𝗏𝗓 and 𝗏𝗏 in 2012,
Okay.
which is quite some time ago, but I've like found that this was kind of applicable to now as well. But there's so many stereotypes associated with women of Black, Asian, and minority ethnic you know, well, what am I saying? Black, Asian, and minority ethnic like women, that, for example, they have, you know, higher pain tolerances, or they're less likely to comply, or they're too demanding. And I think, unfortunately, these stereotypes are so ingrained in some people's psyches and in the healthcare system itself. It's very difficult to not anticipate that stigma. And I think it's almost like it's almost discouraged women of color to speak up about their experiences as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd say like that's a basis. I think it's hard to explain the exact cause of racism in the healthcare system, because I feel like I'm no expert for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, a lot of it also comes from implicit bias, I feel, and implicit bias within healthcare staff and other contributory factors, I guess. Um, and stereotypes once again. There's also just unrealistic perceptions, I think, especially for women in our healthcare system. And like I was even thinking about this the other day, but like how many books and diagrams do you see
Mhm.
where, you know, if there's like a disease that we're learning about or a skincare condition, how many times do you see a picture of someone who isn't white in the book
Yeah.
representing that diagram?
Mhm.
And like I think I saw, this was a couple of years ago, but there was, I think his name's 𝗡𝗏𝗏 or 𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏. But he drew one of the first diagrams of a Black woman giving birth that I'd ever seen, or like a baby in a Black woman's stomach, something like that. And it became so viral. And I realized that I'd never actually seen any Black or brown skin in these books representing very daily things, you know? So
Yeah.
it's interesting because the representation starts from there, from the textbooks, from the things that we consume, from the things that we learn from universities, from wherever. You know, we don't see these things represented. And so it almost feels like, oh, we don't experience those things because we don't look like the images that shown, or like, I don't know what this mark on my body looks like because it doesn't look like that on someone else, or whatever it is. Like it's very, very interesting. I don't know if that answered the question specifically, but I just feel like
It does. It
I,
does.
I genuinely feel like it's an amalgamation of so many different things, and it's so deep rooted. And like when you talk about one thing, you end up talking about another thing, and yeah.
Yeah, that's I think that's a perfect answer to me because it's such a big field, isn't it? It's such a big topic and amalgamation of different issues within that, I think is the perfect answer. But as you were talking, you made me think a lot, especially with regards to those illustrations, because I also remember being really surprised to the way I was surprised about it. You know, I don't know if that makes sense, but
No,
but
no, I get what you mean.
yeah,
I just never really thought about it, which is really sad. And then
yeah.
I saw one, and then I was like, wait a second. I've never ever seen something like this before. I've never ever seen eczema like depicted on like a Black or brown person in a textbook, or like the inside of someone's uterus, or like whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess during the COVID years, I discovered so much. It feels like people really took the time to sit down and start thinking about things in a critical way, and
Hmm.
so much appeared. But yeah, that's such a good point. And yeah, as you said, anticipation of stigmatization. I love this term, um, particularly because I think it can come from both parties. It can be both from service users as well as healthcare professionals, because I've
Yes.
heard both perspectives. And I wonder if perhaps finding the right balance between that anticipation from both, parties there, and the misconceptions of stereotypes as well as the unrealistic expectations from both parties. I wonder if there's a way of finding that right balance, and if that could be one of the practical solutions that could be looked into or used to address these inequalities.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, actually. Like, I think definitely finding a middle ground could be something that, improves the situation. Even the fact, like, even increasing those, mental health support systems for women of color who actually do anticipate the stigma,
Mhm.
in a way that's easy for them to access with like no judgment. But as you said, it goes both ways.
Mhm.
Um, like even within, my own extended family, I've seen it happen where, like women of color, they don't want to be treated by someone who isn't also someone of color because they
Mhm.
automatically think that they're not going to get that kind of personalized relationship, that a relationship that has a positive impact with their healthcare provider, and
Mhm.
they think that they can't relate to them and they
Mhm.
can't have that sort of like representation in their own way. Um, so I think it's important maybe to have like more relevant psychological resources addressing those gaps.
Yeah.
And that goes for both, for
Yeah.
the healthcare provider as well, because that training's important. I don't even know if there's enough training done on that. And I don't know if it's just like cultural awareness training or, reassurance that there is no stigma there, or just
Mhm.
even, seeing that representation. I know it can be very, very important. But at the
Mhm.
same time, like I can't even find myself blaming people who
Mhm.
anticipate the stigma, because like I saw this other study where like every woman here knows someone else who's been through some sort of, racial disparity related incident
Mhm.
in healthcare. Like everyone knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. And because you hear all these stories, and because so many people are left feeling ashamed and not taken seriously or looked over or unable to disclose these difficulties because they think that they're going to be dismissed or they think they're going to be stereotyped in one of the most vulnerable situations in their life, it's almost as if it's unavoidable.
Mhm.
So I think if there was a way to find that balance, that would be so, so monumental. But it's such like a tricky path, and like there's so much to do.
Yeah.
So easier said than done for sure. But
Indeed.
I hope that happens one day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that answer. It's just brilliant listening to you, Nila. Um,
I apologize. Like I have such a sore throat today. Like I'm like,
oh,
but I do have something to add really quickly, if that's okay. Um, I just, I mean, what do you think about like patient distrust in general? Because like I think I read somewhere that, you know, there's an increased likelihood of disclosing and trusting healthcare staff,
mhm.
who are from minority ethnic backgrounds more so than those who are not.
Mhm.
I mean, do you think it's just a matter of increasing the diversity and representation amongst healthcare professionals, or is it more so improving the perspectives of the healthcare worker? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it
Yeah.
just a matter of diversifying clientele, or like or staff, more so, or is it just working with who you have and making them more, I guess, give them more insights as to what is going on?
I think it could be a bit of both. I'll use your term again. It's an amalgamation of many things. Um,
Yeah.
it also goes back to that anticipation of stigmatization, I think. And I guess it's really rooted on historical facts. But perhaps there's also I do acknowledge that there's more awareness that's been raised, and that in many trusts they are, advocating for cultural intelligence, maybe writing more reports that are elucidating what is happening in terms of people with, within the underrepresented groups. But I guess it's a bit of both. I think it's such a, but trust is such an issue, trust.
Yeah.
I think trust
And I
is
think that comes through generationally, right? Like,
yeah,
because generationally people just kind of instill that belief in you. Like, it comes from either side. So it's so
right.
hard to kind of break that cycle without,
Yes, it really is hard because I think both groups of stakeholders come together with that preconception already. And what cultural intelligence, if that's a term that, because many people choose different terms, but, cultural competency, wherein some people actually believe that that's not something that could even be achieved. But anyway,
Yeah.
raising more awareness of, the needs and, of all groups and the biases that we might not be noticing. Maybe these things are also contributing to that.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. Okay, Nila. As you know, the Embrace UK report published by the University of Oxford usually provides important statistics relevant to mothers and babies. For our audience, it is important to clarify that Embrace UK stands for Mothers and Babies Reducing Risk Through Adults and Confidential Inquiries Across the UK. And Nila, that in 2023, the report suggested that, quote unquote, there remains a nearly four-fold difference in maternal mortality rates amongst women from Black ethnic backgrounds and an almost two-fold difference among women from, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, so just for some reason I hear that my connection was
No,
interrupted.
no worries. I was just listening to you, like, you're very lovely and disgusting.
So, okay, so it's like an almost twofold difference amongst women from Asian ethnic backgrounds compared to white women. So what do you make of these findings, Dina? And what do you think should be done to effectively address these challenges?
Well, firstly, in a very casual way, I think that's crazy. Like, that's insane. I can't believe that that's the statistic in 2023. That's so recent and scary. I think, when I first did my thesis, I think my my supervisor was like, "So what was your biggest takeaway from all of this?" And I was like, don't think I want to have kids here." No, I'm kidding. But I mean, I think it is wild, and it's honestly, like, it took me back a little bit when I read it, because you you'd think that with the social awareness that has somewhat infiltrated within society as of recently, especially, that things would be improving a little bit for families and for people in the healthcare system. But I mean, it's very, very sad to see that it's like twofold and fourfold compared to
Yeah.
women who are not of color. And like, what was the question again? Sorry.
So I just
Was
wanted
it
to
just
know
what I
your
think?
perspective. So yeah, just what you've answered really. Just wanted to know what to think of those. I think you've answered perfectly. It's just yeah, it's
No,
interesting.
I was just shocked and saddened, and like, I think a lot has to be done. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
very underrepresented, under-researched sometimes, and I think a lot has to be done there.
indeed. Thank you so much, Nila. And I in November 2023, I co-published an article with a fantastic team from this institute at the University of Cambridge. So that was
Yeah, amazing.
thank you. The state of care in England's maternity services. And I also collaborated with you and an amazing team as well at KCL, where we focused on uh, publishing an article by the BMC. It was published on the BMC, sorry. And the title was Inside Imperfect Mosaic, Minority Ethnic Women's Qualitative Experiences of Race and Ethnicity During Pregnancy, Childbirth and Maternity Care in the United Kingdom. And that report really, helped us focus on racial disparities in maternal health outcomes. I think we've discussed a lot about that already, but what is your analysis of the current situation, which if you could maybe just expand a little bit of what you've already said, just maybe in a few seconds or so, that would be great.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, with the current situation, I feel like, as you said, those statistics are quite blaring and very hard to ignore. But from what I've seen and what I've read, the underlying institutional racism is still very much rampant, and it's in the form of implicit bias and being silenced and disbelieving patients. And, I feel like there is some progress because of the body of research that we have seen, especially since the COVID crisis. It has increased, and I feel like it is a positive note for change, and that's what we need. Change is what we need, but it's gonna be slow, and it's gonna be, day by day. I don't think it's gonna happen overnight, but I definitely think that there is a pace, whereas before I feel like it was kind of stagnant. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it was just happening. Like, people were telling you that, like, oh my God, like, come on, we're receiving inadequate care, and we need non-generalized care and non-generalized diagnoses and things like that. But nothing was actually happening in a practical sense. And um I think people have done an incredible job trying to get those programs in healthcare settings and administer those almost like safety nets for people. So a lot to be done still, and I think progress is there, but yeah, there's so much more to go.
Yeah, I think that's such an insightful analysis there. I think I make the same analysis. It's moving in the right direction, but maybe
Yeah.
not a pace that I would like it to move in, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
still
If it
moving.
was
Yes.
my way, I'd like the
Yeah.
issue to be done by the week. By the end of the week.
Just do
Um
it.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, realistically,
Yes.
because it's been something that has affected so many people
Yeah.
for generations, it's just so
Big
hard,
time.
isn't it?
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much, Nila. Thank you so much for enlightening me today with your insightful perspectives on maternal health inequalities. It's been great talking to you. I wonder if you have a final message to share with our audience, please.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. Honestly, as I said, it was an honor. And, like, I know that I'm not a professional academic. I know that I'm a published girly,
So
but
humble. You are, you are.
but all I've wanted to do since I started everything is just make all of this accessible for people from all ages so that everyone can learn. And
Yeah.
so I'm really, really grateful to be on your platform. I think my final message would just be, you know, it's cold, keep warm, and keep researching, keep, believing people, and keep investing in people and their causes. And I don't know, give people a platform if you have one and they don't, and amplify those voices. I think it's so important that people do that. So yeah, that would be my final message. And yeah,
Oh,
take care, have some soup.
oh, yeah. So such good messages there. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll keep them in mind as the weather looks, yeah, as you say, it is cold. So I'll keep that in mind. Thank you so much, Nila. I think I'll say goodbye to you in Swahili. Um,
Okay.
thank you very much means asante sana. And
Yeah.
Swahili is goodbye. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Asante sana.
Asante sana. Bye.
Bye.